Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the ToniSport Newsfeed. Today I'm back with another how-to video clip, and today we want to talk about how to become a better mechanic. Being a better mechanic is not only meant if you like to wrench for somebody else on the car of your friend. It also means to be a better mechanic when wrenching on your own stuff, on your own car, to prepare it for the next race or the next practice day. And it's also something which is really important if you want to get better in the world of RC racing. You need to be kind of a good mechanic, because the ability to wrench on your car with a good sense of understanding and know-how will definitely help you to turn faster lap times, to do faster overall runs on track. And in general, it is important to always know kind of what you're doing when working on the car. So the first tip I have for everybody to be a better mechanic is make sure that you have some really solid and good tools. You know, it might sound very simple and clear, but many times I see people on the track working on their stuff. They don't have a car stand or a pit mat on the table to get kind of a clean and organized place to work on the car. Sometimes they are using, I would say, super bad tools with completely worn out tips on the hex drivers, for example. And then it's kind of a pain to work precisely on a high-end race car. So just make sure that your tools are in a good condition, that you have all the tools you need, so that it's not a problem for you if you need to detach some parts from your car, from the chassis, the suspension or whatever, that you don't miss any kind of tools. So this is tip number one. If you want to be a better mechanic, make sure that your tool game is on top. The second tip I want to point out today in this video clip is that it is important to learn to build your car according to the manual. So that also sounds very easy, the same as with having a good set of tools, but it is super important that once you build your first real race car by yourself, when you buy a kit, when you invest money, you are maybe proud of getting this product, and then many people they build it super quickly. They are always in a hurry because they want to race it in the best case in the next day, and then many people they don't read the instruction manual properly. They oversee some important advices and tips, and many times people make mistakes when building the car, which is nothing you have to be to blame yourself for, because I've also made many mistakes when building new cars, and after checking the manual again and again, I saw, hey, this part belongs in the opposite direction, or needs to get mounted upside down, just for example. There are many things you can do wrong when just checking the manual and just building the car. So always make sure that you read the manual carefully and that you try to understand what the manual explains to you. There are many different manuals out there in the world of RC racing. Some manuals are extremely good, others maybe not. So depending on the brand you have purchased the car kit from, it can be more easy or more complicated to build the car. And in the same moment, I want to also tell you that when reading the manual and when start to build the car, take your time. Don't do it in a hurry, because when it's the first car you build from a certain brand, you always will have kind of questions or things which are maybe unclear, and then you have to maybe check in the internet again or on social media. You can ask some of the drivers who are already racing with this car in your club, or also on the social media platforms, and you will get a feedback normally very easy. But yeah, just make sure that you know what you're doing and that you try to get all the important informations out of the manual when building your race car. Yeah, tip number 3 is also about learning. After learning to read the instruction manual, it is also important to learn how to read the setup sheets. Setup sheets are kind of sheets where you can fill out all the different parameters of a current setup. When you have a race car and you have found a good setup, you can make all the notes in this setup sheet, and once you return to the track you raced with this good setup, you can easily get kind of quick access to your setup sheet, and then you know, hey, last year here on this track I used a harder spring, or I used a different roll center, or I had a different camber setting. Then you can remember more easily what parameters you have used on a certain track, on a certain race, or maybe some years ago, because the more you will travel to different locations, to different races, and the more you will work on your car, the more easy you will also forget all the changes you made, because nobody can save that just in mind. To always remember what kind of change you have made 2 or 3 years ago on a track. Therefore, yeah, it is important to have these setup sheets. And yeah, you can find setup sheets for the cars of all the brands normally on the website of the brand itself. You can find setup sheets on the social media channels of their top ranked team drivers, because these guys, they always post setup sheets after races with some notes as well. And there is one website which I really recommend to check, because it's kind of a database where people are uploading setup sheets since many years. It's called petirc.com. On petirc.com you can find setup sheets for almost every RC racing car on the planet, from all the manufacturers, no matter if it's off-road, on-road, 110 scale, 112 scale, 1/8 scale, whatever. This is a very good base of data, and you can find a setup sheet for your car. Just for example, if you have bought yourself an Awesomatics touring car and you want to race it on carpet or on asphalt, in modified or in stock, you will find a setup sheet just to get kind of orientation for yourself, how to build your car, what are the drivers running on these conditions. Do they run soft springs, a hard oil, more flex or less flex, which body shell, and all that things you can easily take out of these setup sheets, and to take these informations to make your car better on racetrack. And when you have never seen a setup sheet before, in the first moment when you look at it, it's maybe a little bit too much information, because almost every shim, every millimeter, every tenth of a shim which is in the car is just written down on one piece of paper. So it might take some minutes until you understand what data on the setup sheet is which part on the car, which shim, which spring, which dimension, and all that things. So make yourself comfortable with setup sheets, because when you read setup sheets to copy a setup, it is important that you really know what to do. On the other side, if you don't care about how to read the setup sheet, you will maybe take the wrong informations out of the sheet. You will build the wrong parameters on the wrong side of your car. You will, I don't know, remove shims instead of adding shims, because you just have misunderstood what it's meaning in the setup sheet. And just take a look on setup sheets from the drivers who are running the same car as you have, and then just try to understand. Take your car, take your setup sheets, and just make sure that you know what the data in the setup sheet means for the settings on the car. This is something very important, because as long as you will race RC cars a little bit more serious, setup sheets will always go alongside with your career in RC, and you will always need to look at setup sheets from different drivers at different tracks with different cars and different conditions. Once you have figured out how to build a car correctly and how to work with setup sheets, now it is time for you to learn as much as possible about all the different setup parameters, because there's so much you can adjust on the modern race cars that it will really take some time to get kind of a knowledge about all these things. Just imagine what you can change on a modern touring car today. You can change the camber, the toe, the ride height, the weight balance. You can work with the droop and the caster. You can change the shock springs, the shock oil, the oil in the gear differential. You can play around with the flex. You can change the gear ratio. The belt tension is important. You can change roll centers, which is really something which you need to know what to do. You can work with different body shells. You can adjust electronics, especially the speed control and the servo, the steering input. You can adjust the left and right steering throw. You can work with the expo settings on your radio. You can change the Ackermann settings on your steering rack. You can work with bump steer, tire preparation, tire additive, tire warmers. So, it's like endless amount of stuff you can work with. And in the beginning once you step on the stage of racing with RC cars on tracks, and it doesn't matter if it's a world championship or just a small club race in your hometown, in the beginning there are so many things you don't know that it's almost impossible to just practice some weeks and wrench on the car for some weeks and to be on the same level as the guys who have a lot of experience in the hobby. And I can also tell you from my experience, you know, I'm in this hobby for maybe 30 plus years, and I would say I have quite a good knowledge about working on the cars and what different settings can change on the behavior of the car, but I always learn new things, I always try different things. Sometimes you also think about old theories which you maybe request or put into a different light when changing stuff and trying something different. You should never stop to learn and to improve. This is important, and because there's so much to learn, it is important that you take your time. Don't expect that you get on top of the game, of the setup game, after 1 year or maybe after 2 years, because every track, every condition, every tire, every weather requires different settings on the car. There is no right and no wrong setup, and this is something you need to remind yourself all the time. You should never stop to learn, and you always should be open to make changes which you maybe have never thought about. And so it's important to kind of dive deep into the most important topics about the setup to just try to understand. For the beginning, I recommend you to just try to understand the most important basic settings. So how is the car reacting when you change the camber or the toe, the ride height, or when you play around with the droop. So these are kind of basic things in touring car racing which have a big effect on the handling of the car. And I would also recommend you not to try to learn everything at the same moment, because it's like putting a glass on top of the table and then trying to put in a 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola. It will not work. It's too much information, and for this reason, take your time, try to understand as much as you can, and never stop. This is super important. There are some kind of things you can do to improve your knowledge. For example, there are 2 really interesting books on the market. The one I recommend is the Essentials Racer's Guide from Dave Stevens. He's a guy from Australia, I think. He has written 3 different books. One is about off-road racing, the other one is about 110 scale touring cars, and I think he has one more about 112 scale pen cars and also Formula 1 cars. And he explains many different parameters and things, and you can learn so much from his book, which is really good, which with a lot of content. There's another one which is a little bit more compact. It's the Speed Secrets book from Ryan Maker, the guy behind the RC Maker brand. If you like to read about it, if you like to read a good book in your lunch break or whatever, just take a look on these books. I can really recommend these books. Then there are some guys doing stuff on YouTube where you can learn from. Maybe me. No, just joking. We have also many videos here on our ToniSport Newsfeed channel, which you can use to learn a little bit. And there are many more guys doing great stuff on YouTube. And you can also learn a lot on social media and on YouTube about setting up the cars. And the last part of this video is more about yourself being at the track after wrenching at home or after learning from books and from videos. It is always important once you are trackside practicing, that you use these practice days to learn about setups. If you are practicing and you really want to know what the car is doing when you're running more camber or less camber, just make some bigger changes to your car. So what I want to say is, don't change the camber from 2 degrees to 1.8 to see how the car will drive with less camber. Maybe just go straight from 2 degrees to 1 degree to have a bigger effect, which you for sure then maybe can feel more easily when driving on the track. And the same when you change some shims on the road center or on the bump steer or wherever. Just make if you really want to feel in which direction it's going, make a change 2 millimeters and go for the next practice runs, not only changing 0.2 or 0.5 millimeter. As better you get, as more you can also feel the small changes. So when I change the 0.5 millimeter shim on the bump steer, I can feel it. When everything is perfect and I know how my car feels, I can feel these small changes. But when you are kind of in a learning process and in a setup jungle, and then you change a little thing, you go up on the driver stand and you are really not sure if you can feel it. But because you know that you have made such a small change, you always want to tell yourself like, hey, yeah, I can feel it. Ah, yeah, this 0.5 millimeter was way better than before. And this is sometimes the brain is always also playing weird games with us, especially when running touring car on road. So if you want to feel something, make a bigger change, test it on track. And when you think, hey, okay, this was the right direction, but it was too much, then you can go backwards a little bit, reduce the change, and then you will see that you will easily get to the sweet spot which you were looking for. The next thing is that it's also important to always make notes after a practice day or during the practice day. You can take a small booklet with you to the track where you then write down all the impressions you had when changing stuff. You can also use the setup sheets, which we talked before, to write down the small notes and to kind of create your own database for the future, because this can be very helpful. Another thing is, watch how the good drivers are wrenching on their cars, because sometimes you're sitting in the pits and you watch the guy on the opposite side of the table and you think, hey, what is he doing now? Why is he doing it like this? Then you ask yourself, is he doing it wrong or is it correct? Am I doing something wrong? And then it's the best to just talk about it. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing it like this? I always thought the other way around would be the better one. So there's also a lot you can learn just through discussions with friends and other racers on the track. So always keep your eyes kind of open for soaking up new informations. And last but not least, never stop to work on your car. Clean your car as always as possible. Wrench on your car as much as you can. Rebuild your car as frequently as your time allows you to do. Just take it apart when you are back at home from practice during the week. Just prepare it for the next weekend or for the next race which is on your schedule. Always make sure that you wrench on your car as much as you can, because every hour of wrenching is kind of a learning process. You will get better and better and better. You will learn how to wrench on the car as precisely as possible, to adjust everything to the absolute perfection. And this is something you can always learn while doing. You cannot wait until you become a good mechanic without wrenching on cars. So you can wrench on your own car, you can just help somebody else on the track who is maybe even more unexperienced than you are, and all these things will help you to become a better mechanic. And this is something which is super important. And before we now finish the video, you will hear so much information from drivers in the pits about setups, and you will hear something from the left side, something from the right side, something from above, something from below. Everybody will tell you something different. There are many opinions about topics, and you can get lost completely when you only listen to the voices of the people without trying yourself. Go to the track, change stuff on your car, and learn for yourself what the car's behavior changed for yourself when driving on track, because there's only one thing which is important when you want to become a better mechanic. That also means that you want to become a faster driver with your car on the track, because your car is better prepared. So learn for yourself, because what you need to go fast is a car which suits your driving style, your likings. There are many guys on the track, they're always looking for more steering, so they want their car to be super aggressive with a lot of bite when they turn into the corners. Other drivers, they always need a car which is slightly pushing and understeering. So you can be fast with many different setups. In the end, it depends on the lap times which the stopwatch is showing you, and this is in the end the only parameter which will tell you if your setup is good for you or not. So don't get too curious when talking to people out there. Try what's the best for you. And if you are good with a soft spring in the rear while everybody else is running a hard spring, as long as you are at the same pace or maybe faster as they are, you should not question that all the time if you need to change. So just make sure that your car behaves to your likings and that you can push it around 5 minutes around the track flat out to post some crazy fast lap times and some cool runs on the track. Then you are on the right way, and the more and more you will do it, the more and more experience you will gain. You know, from a certain point you will know, hey, my car is pushing like hell, so now I will change this and this to get a little bit more steering or to make the rear a little bit more loose and all these things. It will take time, but as long as you try, you will always get better at it, and the rest will come time after time, and you will become a better mechanic as more and more you follow all these steps. And sometimes it's also good to start from zero again, to just reset the brain and say, hey, what was that all about with the road center? Because sometimes you really forget. You change stuff on the car and you don't think about the small details again. Just do it, and then you will become a better mechanic. Whew, I hope this was not too long or too intense about this kind of mechanic stuff, because it is important to have kind of good skills wrenching on the car and understand what you do, and to understand that you will maybe never know everything about all that stuff. There will be always a guy who is more clever than you, and there will be always a mechanic who is also better at wrenching on the car than you are. And as long as you just keep improving, you will have a lot of fun and your car will be quick on track. This was our video for today. One more video in our how-to series here on the ToniSport Newsfeed channel. I would like to know from you again, as we did in the last past video clips. Please comment below the video and tell me, what is your approach when wrenching on your car? What was the source which you learned all your mechanical skills from? Who was your teacher? Who was the guy you watched when he was wrenching on your car? Do you have your own mechanic when you go to races? Maybe you don't wrench by yourself anymore, but then it means that you are almost reached the pro level. Yeah, just tell me a little bit about how much you enjoy wrenching on your RC car and how you learned everything you know until today. Thanks for watching the video. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel until now, please make sure that you click on the bell as well to not miss any kind of videos in the future. Yeah, thanks for watching. Always keep in mind, race with ToniSport, you will never race alone, and we see us in the next video. Goodbye, guys.